Hi everyone, my name is Sun. This is my channel. Stating the obvious. Sun and Mood Reads. Today I am sharing with you the books that I am planning to read in October. Now I say planning because I may not stick to the plan. Okay, I'm just going to stop that right now. This October TBR list is subject to change because of two main factors. The first is I am a mood reader, so I do change my mind a lot. If I'm losing interest, I'm most probably going to move on to another book. For example, last month I read 3 out of the 7 or 8 books that I had on my TBR list. The 3 books that I read were just so amazing. They were my new favorites. I was on cloud 9. And the rest of my books for that month, I just wasn't feeling it. I started reading them and I just felt like I was like crash plummeting down to earth. And I wanted to stay on cloud 9. So I just moved on to some other books that weren't part of the September TBR. So that may happen this month, just a heads up. The other variable is the fact that libraries have relaunched their click and collect services here in Melbourne. So there is a chance that a lot of the books that I have on hold are going to come through. If those books come through, I will be prioritizing those books because I don't have them forever. So with all that in mind, here are my October reads. Okay, so this month is a wonderful mishmash of pure escape reads. I just want to escape from real life. Not that my real life is that terrible. I mean, to speak honestly, I am so grateful and very blessed with everything that I have. My family, my work, my friends, my relationships, a house, all that. I mean, me and my family, we are killing it when it comes to the Maslow hierarchy of human survival. But let's be real. 2020 is a very strange time, to say the least. And I'm just having one of those months, And in the one aspect that I have that's just for me, which is my reading life, I just want to read books that I can be completely engrossed in. Okay, so my first 2 books for October are Aussie Reads. The first book is Force of Nature by Jane Harper. It's the second book of the Aaron Falk series, the first being the very successful The Dry. So the plot itself isn't a sequel. It's like many other mystery series where the investigator is the constant throughout the books. So the first book, The Dry, was hugely popular with good reason. I do feel like what sets Jane Harper apart from many other mystery thriller writers is her atmospheric writing of the environment within the story. The Dry is set in the outback in rural Victoria. Her descriptions of this particular climate is just raw and sharp. You can almost feel the dust like you're breathing it in and just the harsh dryness all around. The setting of the dry rural outback is a character within itself, and it's quite an antagonistic character throughout the story. So I'm really excited to see where the next book, Force of Nature, goes to. Now this book is set in the bushland, like in a national park. Basically there are 5 women who go on a trek in this bushland and only 4 come back. I have read somewhere that it has a bit of a deliverance, picnic at Hanging Rock flavor to the story. So that really unsettles me, but I'm going all in. The second Aussie book that I'm going to read was quite a lovely and very random find. I just came across it when I was browsing on Facebook on the Better Reading Facebook page. As most publishing companies and bookish organizations are doing, when there is a book launch for an author, because we cannot actually physically go to the book launches, there are virtual online book launches with the author. And you pop online and you're having a live virtual chat with the author. It's fantastic. So anyway, I came across this one and it really excited me. The title is so much fun, the cover is gorgeous, and the author just sounded so lovely and passionate. So I'm going to give it a go. The book is The History of Mischief by Rebecca Higgie. Like, how gorgeous? How gorgeous is the cover? It's a new book, only released at the beginning of September, so I don't know much about it. It's being promoted as like a upper middle grade YA fantasy, magic realism. And yeah, that's the kind of escape read I want. It sounds delightful. I have not read an Aussie fantasy book before. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading an Aussie book that is not a psychological thriller and that is not about the life of a screwed up stand-up comedian. I'm not saying those genres are bad. I love those genres, but that is basically the spectrum that I have stayed within when it comes to Australian reads, just based on what is popular when it comes to commercial fiction here in Australia. So yeah, I'm very intrigued about this book. So the story is about two sisters and they discover a strange secret, maybe magical book under the floorboard of their grandmother's house. Maybe either literally or figuratively, this book is like a portal into other worlds and a brilliant adventure. I don't know, like I'm kind of getting vibes of like maybe it's like a modern day Narnia. I have no idea, but I was really attracted to the title, the cover. It sounds lovely. The author sounds amazing. So yeah, I'm going to give it a go. Okay, so moving on. Now, it would not be an escape readathon for me without squeezing a little bit of Jane Austen in there. So I'm going to be rereading Sense and Sensibility. Well, I'm going to be listening to the audiobook narration by Rosamund Pike. I am going through a big Rosamund Pike phase. I am obsessed with her. I recently listened to the audiobook narration of Pride and Prejudice by her, and it was absolutely perfect. I did do a little bit of a spiel about this in my Delightfully Austen video. Do yourself a favor and don't go to that video because I rewatched it the other day and I don't know what was wrong with me. I just rambled on in that video, so you don't have to go watch it. Take it from me here and now. The Pride and Prejudice audiobook narration was brilliant and I'm sure Sense and Sensibility will be as well. The next book is a retell of Pride and Prejudice and it is Janice Hadlow's The Other Bennet Sister. This book I also mentioned in that other video that you are not going to watch. The Other Bennet Sister is a retell of Pride and Prejudice through the eyes of Mary Bennet, which really intrigues me because Mary Bennet is the sister, the geeky, daggy, plain one that the whole family basically overlooks. So I'll be really interested to see how this story plays out through her eyes. Okay, now let's move on to the two books that I am particularly pumped about. And they are within the fantasy genre, which seems to be the genre that I am just leaning towards a lot nowadays. And I am relatively new to fantasy reading. I think I started maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it has been a little bit of a struggle to find the right fantasy books for me. But it really only took a few books to make me realize what kind of fantasy reads that I like. So I was finally able to break that barrier a couple of years back, and now I am just loving it. The first book that actually was the gateway into fantasy reading for me was The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which is the first book of the Broken Earth trilogy. Now, I don't want to go into that book too much because I think I'm going to maybe do a video about this book and a few other fantasy books. I would like to do a video about what are the gateway books into fantasy reading for fantasy beginners by a beginner, because I haven't really seen many videos like that. I have gotten recommendations by watching some amazing booktubers who are very well read within the fantasy genre. But I feel maybe it might be useful to others out there getting thoughts and recommendations from someone who has just recently started reading fantasy. So anyway, because of that, I don't want to really dive deep into the Broken Earth trilogy books, but I absolutely love N.K. Jemisin. The world building in the Broken Earth trilogy is just unlike anything I've ever read. It is so unique, but at the same time, I don't know what it is about it, but it's very familiar and it's very easy to grasp, visualize in your mind. I think that just says a lot about N.K. Jemisin's writing. The 5th season changed my reading life. In fact, it changed the way I just perceive and visualize characters when I read books, because I didn't realize how conditioned I have been because of what I see on TV, what I read in books, what I read as a child in picture books. A lot of the people and characters that I conjure up in my mind are Caucasian, are white. So the 5th season just completely broke that wall down. So I've read the 5th season, I've read the 2nd book, The Obelisk Gate, and now I am moving on to the 3rd and final book, The Stone Sky. Okay, so the 2nd fantasy read that I'm going to be immersing myself into, and honestly, I never thought I would be saying that I'd be reading Robin Hobb, but I will be reading Robin Hobb, starting with, of course, Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book of the Farseer trilogy and one of the, 16 books or something within the realm of the Elderlings. Oh my God. Honestly, in the past, I've looked at these books and have gone, oh my God, that's just so fantasy, whatever that implies. So I cannot believe I'll be reading this, but I am super excited about it. I think now is the perfect time because I've just come off reading the absolute epic and brilliant 2nd book of the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, The Wise Man's Fear, and oh my God, I honestly think Kingkiller Chronicles is the best read that I've had in my adult life. I think it's safe to say that. It was just perfection. I will do a separate review on that book and also in the future video about fantasy books for beginners. So I won't go into it too much, but the majestic, epic journey of Quoth, that whole fantasy world within a very familiar kind of medieval kind of period, I just loved all that. And I want to relive something similar to that in another book. And from just watching and reading recommendations and reviews, it seems like Assassin's Apprentice is the next step for me. Like I want to go on this journey with Fitz. I want to be in this world of royals and kingdoms and magic. I know it's going to be epic. I have also heard that it is a very character-driven story and you do become invested. It's all the elements that I want. My heart's like fluttering about the thought of starting this journey. The next read is a contemporary fiction. It's one I've had in my Kindle for months and months. I keep hearing about it. It's all the rage and I just want to be part of this club now. It's going to be a perfect one to just cleanse the palate for me this month. The book is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Even if I hadn't heard any of the hype, seriously just looking at the cover, just looking at the title, it says Beach Read. I'm like, they are literally 2 of my favorite things. Yep, I've heard it all. I've heard the hype. I've heard it's witty. It's just a brilliant, entertaining read. So yeah, I'm in. So what's that? Yeah, that's 7 books that I have so far. I know there are many booktubers out there that I am just in awe of the fact that they can read so many books in 1 month. But I am, I'm not necessarily about quantity. I'm about quality. I have a very limited time in my life. So I like to make sure that every single moment of my time is dedicated to very, very carefully picked books that I know that I will love. Well, hopefully I will love. So just before I finish off, I thought I might share with you the few books that I am waiting for at the library. 3 books that if they do come in, I will definitely be prioritizing them. So the first book that I'm waiting for is The Wife and the Widow by Christian White. He's an Aussie author. His first book, The Nowhere Child, is in my top 5 reads ever. And I have mentioned this book in a previous video. He's just brilliant at writing page-turning thrillers. It's better than a Netflix series, seriously. So I'm really, really looking forward to The Wife and the Widow. I'm also waiting for Kevin Wilson's Nothing to See Here. I'm just trying to remember where I heard about this book. I think it might have been I think it was the New York Library podcast. And just the premise sounded so random and brilliant. And it just sparked my curiosity. So basically it's about a woman who decides to become a caretaker for a friend's stepkids. But the catch is these two kids, when they get really agitated and angry, they combust into flames. So I was like, what? But apparently it's just wonderful and witty and has quite a lot of heart as well. I'm hoping it has kind of like the similar vibes to The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, which I've just recently read and absolutely loved. And the other one that I'm waiting for is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a book that I've been meaning to read for many years. Not in any real rush to read it, but I am in the mood for a story that's to do with looking back, nostalgia, regret. So if this book comes in, I'll be very much bringing this up to the top of the list. Okay, so they are the books that I plan to read in October. I can't remember all the books off the top of my head right now, so I will list it down in the descriptions. Just once again, keep in mind, they are subject to change. Look, honestly, I don't know why I'm putting so much pressure on myself about the fact that I change my books around. Because when I watch other booktubers, I'm not watching them going, they better finish all those books by the end of the month. No, like I watch booktubers to get recommendations and see what kind of books they're reading that month and see if there's any other books that spark my interest, and I put them down on my TBR. So I never put that pressure on other booktubers, so I don't know why I'm doing it to myself. So I'm just going to let it go. I'm embracing the fact that things change, TBRs change, life changes, and we are all in this together. God, it sounds like I'm about to start a song. I'm really not. In fact, I am finished. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Sun. This is Sun and Mood Reads. Please subscribe if you enjoyed my blabbering, and I will see you next time. Bye. Sun and Mood Reads.